Marble Blast goals is defined by one single thing: frame battles. Most of the top times for levels in the game are separated by thousands of seconds. The thousandth place isn't even visible in vanilla gold without using a command, but that's what the community has had to resort to just to separate top runs. This is primarily the case on the beginner levels of the game, since they end up being rather linear. Despite how trivial they look, runners have been innovating for over 15 years, trying to answer one simple question: what is the fastest way to go in a straight line? It sounds like a dumb question at the surface, but that question might have just been answered, as a recently discovered strategy has helped runners absolutely destroy previous records, and in some cases, even beat the best task times. This is the story of the natural jump. Before understanding what a natural jump is, we have to rewind to the discovery of some other key strategies. There are several strategies that are used in most Marble Blast speedruns. The first one is apparent when watching any high-level speedrun for the game. All top players orient the camera diagonally, which seems really counterintuitive. This is intentional though, and its mechanic uses the fitting name of diagonal movement. The game handles movement with 4 keys representing each of the 4 directions. And so if you hold 2 keys, for example W and D, the game will combine the movement from both key presses. Combining the 2 causes the movement to converge into a single point, and so this new speed ends up being much faster. To compensate for the change in direction for both keys being pressed, a runner has to turn their camera angle to be able to go in a straight enough line. Now with that out of the way, what other key strategies can a player use to go faster? It seems like the puzzle would be complete there, just orient the camera as diagonally as possible. Well, we're forgetting one aspect that is crucial for speed: the start pad. This is where the main strategies for speed all come together. There's a period of time where the marble is stationary on the start pad as a countdown plays. This timing stays exactly the same over every run, and so quickly players found sequences to consistently leave the start pad as fast as possible. To do this, the marble has to land on the pad right as movement is unlocked at go, as this helps convert built-up spin into actual speed. Jumping right at set was found to be the most reliable method to accomplish this, as the audio cue helps time this pretty easily. There is one quirk with this though, as each additional bounce or jump before go causes the marble to lose additional spin. So realistically, players have the incentive to do one jump rather than this method's 2. This is trickier though, as it uses no audio cue, but for most optimized levels, it's entirely necessary. One other necessary thing is the start pad trick. Moving back to natural jumps, we first need to learn about what a natural bounce is. A natural bounce occurs when landing on the ground with no inputs held at the exact frame that a marble touches the surface. The first application of this was found for the start sequence, since a natural bounce almost perfectly lines up the marble with the slant of the start pad slope following the first bounce. Jumping on the slope of the pad gives an additional speed boost. From here, start pad strategies are just getting started. When starting up the level, you're only able to build up spin without any additional movement. Runners then theorized that the most optimal strategy would be one that could convert spin to speed the quickest. The initial bounce and start pad slope trick combination accomplishes this. But what about after the ball has left the start pad? It was found that sliding for a quarter of a second right after leaving the start pad also added some speed to the ball, but this was only useful on a few levels. In 2014, runner Cali29 revolutionized the scene with his aptly named Cali Start. This used the same 2 jump sequence and start pad trick from previous runs. However, it also adds something curious to the mix. His strategy adds a natural bounce as soon as the marble leaves the start pad. This is barely noticeable for a spectator, but it helps a ton with converting spin to additional speed. Cali used this strategy to smash a ton of records, making his debut in the 5th Gold World Record Rampage. This was thought to be the end of the search for the fastest start in the game, and for a few years it was. As the Cali Start got perfected in the following years, new runners would revisit the same mechanics, and they'd go on to discover some interesting things. These players first tried different jump patterns to see if they had any use. Levels such as Gravity Helix or a Gap Aimer in Platinum do benefit from this idea, since the different jump patterns allow for more speed to be built up in a more confined space. This gave birth to the Doombless Start, which doesn't use a start pad trick, it instead bounces off of the start pad with a natural bounce afterwards. The Doombless Start allowed for a few records to be set, but it didn't revolutionize the game. What was needed was a way to exit the start pad faster, staying on the same jump pattern as before. This ended up being found in an unlikely location. Mads was known for grinding some tedious levels, making his debut in the 3rd Marble Blast Platinum World Record Rampage a few years ago. He returned to a level he previously had record on, Platinum's first level, Let's Roll. This is yet again another linear level, so the previously mentioned start pad tricks played a big role here. Matt's misread the directions given by another player for the most optimal start on the level. The previous record strategy was just to do the start pad trick with a natural jump after leaving the pad. A natural jump is similar to a natural bounce, but you're still able to hold the spacebar down without the directional keys held. The natural jump had already been explored by several players, but it wasn't found to be all too much faster than the natural bounce. Mads thought there was an extra natural jump in the mix, one on the slope of the start pad. After messing around with this, he returned with quite the breakthrough. This caused quite the reaction in the community. Some top runners thought it might have just been a fluke, but Doombla swiftly proved that it was very real and could be replicated to produce faster times. Top speedrunner Zelna also began experimenting with it, and just like that, a new strategy was born. The natural slope jump, or NSJ, would be used to completely obliterate records upon the day of its discovery. These were records that had been stationary for years and were just now being uncovered. Now, why did this discovery save so much time? Well, in short, it was exactly what we were looking for with how to convert spin to maximum speed. More complexly, as the game's top tasser, Dom, put it.
Natural jumps are insane. They are by far the most efficient start we have found to date. They work by combining the spin converting properties of a natural bounce with the velocity boosting properties of jumping. So in context, if we were to jump off a slope, this would cause the marble to make contact with the floor tile more quickly, and then we can then do a second natural jump, but this ends up being the kale tweak on crack because we get all the benefits of the kale tweak with an additional velocity boost from jumping. So all in all, it saves about 40 milliseconds, but what's more interesting is the fact that we get a slightly altered jump pattern, and this has allowed players and tassers to interact with signs and edges and even grab power-ups in ways we've never been able to before.
One of the records in question wouldn't just be broken by frames though. Learning the super jump is pretty self-explanatory. It's yet another straight line level, but for over a decade, players have been using a route that didn't even pick up the super jump power-up. By hitting the edge of the sign, players could skip the super jump entirely, which ended up being much faster than the general route. From 2009 up until recently, the record had only been lowered by 1/10 of a second. This was until the natural slope jump uncovered a secret that the level had been holding for over 18 years. Using a delayed start to build more spin, the marble would end up painfully close to overcoming the gap separating the finished platform from the start platform. With the introduction of the natural slope jump, it was confirmed to be possible to clear this gap. DKman proved this the day of the natural slope jump's discovery, dropping the record by over 0.4 seconds. Since 2004, the record had never been dropped by as much as 1/4 of a second, but once again, the new technique had proven effective. The tweak wasn't just confined to Marble Blast Gold and Platinum either, as it is feasible for almost all levels in the game, since virtually every level has a start pad. Of course, the tweak is really hard. A natural jump requires the input to be released for only a few frames. Doing this for 3 natural bounces back to back to back is incredibly difficult, and only a few players have truly mastered it. Zelna, who is known for his good natural bounce timing, easily picked up the new technique, achieving several records in Marble Blast Gold. Once Tasser Dom was able to experiment with the technique, he also lowered the task sum of Beth by a substantial margin. I think that this ends up being the most fascinating part. For a time, several human runs of Marble Blast Gold were in fact faster than the best tasks, which are meant to be infeasible for a human to match. Those same task runs have been refined for over a year, with top players making sure to account for every quirk that a level might provide. This new strategy allowed for players to temporarily pave the way for how fast levels could truly be finished. It's incredible that after 18 years, there's still new discoveries being found that are bringing back interest to Marble Blast Gold's most grinded levels. Following the 5th World Record Rampage's release, the community was rather pessimistic about the prospects of a 6th Rampage, but considering all of the recent discoveries as of late, not only is a 6th Rampage possible now, but it might end up being the most revolutionary one yet. Thank you so much for watching. A like would be much appreciated. Also, if you're new here, make sure to check out the other Marble Blast speedrunning videos on this channel. After 18 years, the community remains as vibrant as ever, so I'm always excited to document discoveries like the natural slope jump to a greater audience. See you soon.